So like Brendan said, my name is Nykea Behiel. I'm the managing editor on the marketing team here at Vendasta, and that means I drive a lot of our content marketing, which is what we're going to talk about today. So like, I'm going to quote Seth Godin. He said, "Marketing is about spreading ideas, and spreading ideas is the single most important output of our civilization." And that's so true. It's never been more true. Marketing is so prevalent now, and not only does it shape the decisions about the products and services that we buy, but also the way we see the world and our perspectives, which we're now moving into an era where brands are starting to tell their story. There's another quote that says, marketing has changed more in the last 5 years than it had in the previous 50. So before, when a brand wanted to tell a story, they'd take a 30-second TV spot or a radio ad or a newspaper or send some direct mail. But now, how many of you answer 1-800 numbers on your phone? Or open direct mail, or have a home line, or subscribe to cable TV. So not to say that traditional media is dead, it definitely isn't, but audiences are now more segmented than ever, and there's new ways to tell stories. So first, what is content marketing? It's telling stories that people want to hear, providing useful, relevant content that people come looking for. So instead of broadcasting your message out on radio or through the newspaper, it's putting out a blog or social media and content that people want. So whereas if you were a clothing store and before you would take out an ad saying, "We have these 10 brands and we have a sale." Now you might have a really good Pinterest or Instagram account, and you might run a blog that says, "Here are the top 10 fall trends." And as people look for that content and they want to seek it out, then they'll naturally start to trust you as an industry leader. So a lot of people think content marketing started in 2008 with HubSpot, but I think maybe even way earlier in 1890. These are the Michelin Brothers. So in 1890 they invented I don't know if anyone's a big tire fan, I might get this wrong, but it's an air-filled pneumatic tire. And it was a great invention. It was somewhat revolutionary and people loved it. The problem was that vehicles were still very much a novelty in Paris, and there was less than 3,000 vehicles at the time in all of Paris. And people saw them as a novelty, and they only drove them around on Sundays, showing off their Model T or whatever people had back then. So instead of putting out an ad saying, "Hey, we've got tires and we've got the best tires," they created the Michelin Guide. And by all means, it's a tourism guide. It says, here's something to see over here. It had some practical knowledge, how to repair a tire, how to change your oil. But it started to incorporate hotels and restaurants and things to do. And that was all just to get people literally spinning their tires. And then in 1926, so not only did they maybe have something to do with the advent of content marketing, but they also maybe had something to do with our modern review and rating systems that we use online. They started giving out stars for fine dining restaurants. So 1 star meant a very good restaurant in its category. 2, excellent cooking, worth a detour. And 3 was exceptional cuisine, worth a special journey. So in mind that all that tourism language was still in place because it was all about driving to get to somewhere. So they're still in production today and still mean something today. Gordon Ramsay said he cried when he lost 2 of his Michelin stars, and there's a lot of anonymity and secrecy surrounding the inspectors who get paid by Michelin to do nothing that has to do with tires. They get paid to go eat at hundreds of thousands of restaurants and very anonymously report on how good they are, and then it's dramatic if a good restaurant loses its stars. So a lot of brands are starting to latch onto this and move from creative excellence to content excellence. So whereas a witty commercial might have been good before for a homogenous group, now they're saying, okay, we need to put out really specific pieces of content that people are coming looking for. One of the oldest and maybe most iconic brands, CocaCola, is really well known for their traditional advertising efforts. And their one, it's kind of funny that a sugar water is our most iconic brand, but they have moved almost their entire marketing budget to content marketing. And what they're doing is what they call a 70-20-10 model, where 70% of their investment goes to low-risk content that almost all of their consumers can absorb. That's their bread and butter. That's how they generate a lot of traffic and how they justify the next 20 and 10. So 20% of their content is more innovative and engaging, more for a really specific demographic. So if the 70% was for all people who drink Coke, 20% might be for This might have something to do with women 40 to 80 who are drinking Coke and a really specific campaign or something like that. And I think of Vendasta, what we do here, we have a thorough blog, and a lot of our content is for all of our customers, but then some of the content is for, I don't know if you notice the buyer personas on the back wall, really specific. So for our newspaper clients or for our TV clients, really specific case studies for them. And then what Coke is doing is 10% is for their really high risk content, something that might be really rewarding, really exciting, new, or could completely fail. They have this in their budget to just not generate any leads or anything, any sort of revenue. A few years ago, I had a chance to see Obama's digital strategist who worked with him on 2 campaigns and led him to victory in a lot of ways. And he said they had a really unique challenge. They had to build $1 billion startup to go out of business in 19 months. So it was a really interesting way to look at it. And I reviewed his slides that I got a while ago, and I thought, wow, they were really ahead of the game in terms of content and email marketing. So this is one piece of content they put out. That when Obama was running against Romney, Romney had introduced a tax plan, and there was a lot of controversy around it. People were saying it's vague, we don't know the details. And I guess Romney's campaign maybe didn't recognize the importance of digital, and they didn't buy the domain romneytaxplan.com. So Obama's campaign did, and what they put there is, hey, want to find out the details of Romney's tax plan? Click on this button. But you couldn't click on the button. Every time you went to click, it would move, and it would evade. So it was really funny. And after about 10 seconds of that, a pop-up on the bottom would come, and it would say something to the effect of, we can't tell you about Romney's tax plan, but we can tell you about Obama's. Click here. And it linked to a blog. And so Teddy Goff, who was the speaker, he said, there's no way we ever would have gotten the traction had we just put out a white paper that said, here's Obama's tax plan. So they had to be creative. Their whole logo, or their whole motto, was don't be lame. And this, within 24 hours, was liked by 1 million people on Facebook and tweeted over 70,000 times. So it obviously got a lot of traction. And they tested everything. So they had about 6 versions to go out. This is email subject lines. The content's not really important, but what I just wanted to highlight is the subtleties. So they sent out several versions to each segment of each geographic region, say at 6 a.m., and that by 9 a.m. they'd determine a winner. Whichever one got the most opens or clicks, that's who they'd send to the rest of the segment. And the subtleties are really, there's a lot of subtleties. And he said that at one point they changed the donate now button to you should donate, and they saw donations go up something like 26%. So all this stuff really plays into what you can do. But from this is linguistically equivalent doesn't mean the same. So even though you're saying the same thing, using powerful words and not interrupting them with weak words like just or help or things like that really can make a big difference in your content marketing. So this is another quote from Seth Godin. It's not really an important quote, but I just put it up here because something struck me about it when I started reading Seth Godin's book. Not this one in particular, but it's one I could find. And I'll just read a part of it to you. So here he's talking about the linchpin, someone who's really essential in the organization. And he says, her posture is forward. She's looking for opportunities. She wants to mix it up. She looks for trouble. Trouble gives her a chance to delight. Not really that powerful, except for what really struck me is the pronoun. She, her, she. It's so rare to see that used in a position of power where women less than 3% of women are CEOs of Fortune 500 companies or hold high-level marketing positions. So something like this grabbed my attention, and and he switches back and forth between the pronouns all through all of his books, which I thought is really interesting. Because language is power, and that's why when we want to take power away from someone, we ask them to speak our language or do something differently. But what we produce in our own content marketing affects the world and shapes our own opinions. So because pronouns, assumptions, and algorithms matter. Because when you Google image search CEO, this is what comes up. So what do you notice about all those people? Yeah, none of them have a vagina, right? So, sorry, that was a little crude. But what I'm trying to say is that not all of these are real CEOs, like the guy yelling into his phone. This is a stock photo. This is just images taken from marketing, right? So this is why I'm almost obnoxiously relentless. When we're filming something here and it says sales manager to salesperson, we're doing a video script to say, let's put a woman in there. And I know sometimes the team's like, all right, Nykea, you rampant feminist. But anyway, what I'm saying is that what we put out in the world matters, and it feeds it back to us again. So this is to conclude. What's the difference between minus 37 and minus 38 degrees? 1 degree. Not really much, right? You're not going to go like, oh, it's minus 37. You know, it's not. What about 27 and 28 degrees? Same thing. They're both just really hot, right? What about 3 and 2? So there is a big difference there. When there's precipitation at 3 degrees, it's rain. But when there's precipitation at 2 degrees, it's snow. So that's how sometimes a really subtle difference can make a really subtle change can make a really big difference. And that's why I want to say, if people are thinking, oh, we got to take on a content strategy, but it's so overwhelming and it might not pay off. It's true, it might not, but little changes can make a huge difference. That's why I'll just finish with this story. Change, even though we think it happens incrementally, a lot of times it happens really fast. So in 1994, Hush Puppy sales were down to 30,000 pairs a year. And the company that owns them, Wolverine, was saying, okay, maybe we got to stop producing these. They're not really doing anything for us. And then a funny thing happened. Some of the executives were in New York, and someone said, hey, did you know that your shoes are really selling well in the East Village? Like, no, that's weird. And they didn't really think much of it. And then a few months later, they got a call from Vera Wang and some other really influential designers said, do you mind if we use Hush Puppies in a photo shoot? They're like, okay, for sure. And then in 1995, they sold 430,000 pairs. Unbeknownst to them, they didn't really have much to do with this change. And then the year after, that had gone more than 4 times to just under 2 million pairs of Hush Puppies. So it was a small group of really influential people in the East Village in New York who decided Hush Puppies are cool, comfort's cool, doesn't matter. And that change spread all throughout. And now they're still selling successfully. And that year, they found themselves on the stage, and remember it's 1996, so these are big names there then, with Donna Karan and Calvin Klein accepting some of the biggest fashion awards of that year. So change can happen fast.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, Nykea. That was awesome.